Hi, I'm Michael Bolton from DevelopSense. I live in Toronto and I travel all around the world. And one of the pleasures of traveling all around the world is every now and again I get to be in the same place with this guy. Who are you?
I'm James Bach. I am the principal consultant at Satisfice Incorporated, and I travel the world teaching testing, and I originated the rapid software testing methodology, which Michael and I teach around the world. And I wrote a couple books. I want to mention those.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah. Well,
Lessons Learned in Software Testing and Secrets of a Buccaneer Scholar. I wrote those books. So I'm kind of proud of that.
You wrote the first book with somebody else.
Sure, other people helped.
Okay, so we've been at the conference now for, 4 days, I guess? What excited you most?
What excited me most was Keith Klain's keynote. Because here's a guy in senior management at a major bank, a regulated industry, who says that he swept away their metrics program, didn't replace it with another metrics program, just swept it away, threw away maturity models, which you and I have been arguing for years are nonsense, an opiate for masses of ignorant people. And he swept that stuff away, and instead they instilled a culture of testing skill, which I keep being told by people, delegates at conferences like this. They keep saying, "Oh no, it's senior management. They don't think or act like normal people. You have to speak to them in a language of numbers and dollar signs," and it's nonsense. But he proves, and his company proves, he's got 800 testers working worldwide that he's got to manage, doing important stuff, some of it regulated. To say that you can instead of having a methodology made of templates and check boxes,
Maturity models.
instead of having all of that kind of stuff, instead of counting test cases, that you can get away from all that quality center nonsense and say, how about if we train the testers and have the testers train each other and have systematic mentoring, develop our skills, and then allow those people to get on with their work. That is a really wonderful, powerful message.
Yeah, I agree with that, because one of the problems with maturity models, it seems to me, is, I blogged about this, they have it backwards. A maturity model that says that you're supposed to do what it says in this document, that you're supposed to do what mommy and daddy tell you to do, that seems to be the opposite of maturity.
Yeah, I wrote an article years ago called "The Immaturity of the Capability Maturity Model" because of that very idea. I want to be mature. Will somebody tell me how to be mature, please? How can I be mature without being told by my authority figures what to do? That is the opposite of maturity.
What are the steps I have to follow to be mature?
I have a challenge for you. What is maturity?
What is maturity?
Quick, go.
I would say it's the capacity to adapt appropriately to a situation without depending on your parents or on some kind of authority.
The capacity to adapt?
I think the capacity, the ability to adapt, to adapt and to behave appropriately in an unpredicted situation.
Yeah, I like most of that. I think maturity is how well adapted an organism is to its environment. A mature organism is one that has adapted, that it is doing what it needs to do for its environment. An immature organism has not yet done that. It's still getting eaten by seagulls as it tries to get to the water.
I'm thinking of maturity in terms of age, though. It's whether you can get by without support from your parents, whether you've achieved a
that's part of that.
independence.
Isn't that part of that?
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not merely adaptation to the environment, though. Or at least that's not the sense that I want. Because look at the way the maturity models say. They say, well, this is perfectly adapted to the financial industry, but you still have to follow what they say. You still have to follow what mommy and daddy say.
So certainly the idea of appealing to a mommy and daddy kind of thing seems immature.
Yeah, that seems to be the way.
A mature organism is a self-possessed organism.
That's the sense I'm trying to get at. Yeah, it's self-possessed without
self-possession. Okay, we're into that.
But that's not necessarily a complete independence or isolation from anything else.
Right, that's right. It does not mean complete independence or isolation. Sometimes when we talk about people doing things for themselves, sometimes people get confused by that because they think that we mean ignoring everyone else.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
Is it? Don't you also get it that we say that bad documentation should be avoided, and people somehow here don't do documentation?
Yeah, it's a punctuation problem there. I say, don't produce documentation that is wasteful. And people seem to hear, they repunctuate. It's like eats, shoots, and leaves. Don't produce documentation. That is wasteful.
Oh, I see.
But that's not what I said. There's a sort of repunctuation macro that they're running on there, and it's not right. It's produce useful documentation. Do not produce useless documentation. Produce documentation that people will put to good use.
Yeah, so it's all part of that kind of maturity thing. I think part of it is that some people, many people who are expecting a certain kind of message from their testing consultant will just take whatever we say and just in a Procrustean bed sort of way, just make it fit whatever their expectation was, or else they dismiss what we say as they must have been joking when they said that. Surely they couldn't have meant that. So
I love the Procrustean bed image. It's so wonderful. It's the story of Procrustes. He had a bed that would fit everybody. The way he would,
a best practice bed, you might think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way it would fit everybody is if you were too long for the bed, or if the bed was too short for you, he would hack bits of you off. And if the bed was seemed to be too long, he'd stretch you.
That's right.
Violently.
Right.
And I love the fact that it's a violent.
So he thought it was important for people to adapt.
That's right.
So he was into that adaptation.
Until
this consultant named Theseus, I forget who it was, who came along and reframed that
I think
bed.
there may be a way people might find this bed uncomfortable or unsuited to them. So that was it. I love that image. It's a terrific image.
Yeah. So we deal with that a lot. It's Michael and I go all around the world. We're playing a global game of Risk. Michael teaches in the Netherlands, but I have Sweden. And then he's got Finland right now, but I'm send some armies over to Finland and take him on in Finland. Yeah. And to this year, I got Estonia. Michael hasn't penetrated there yet. Romania. I'm basically taking Eastern Europe at this point. But he's got Russia, which is a big territory.
I did the class in Poland too.
And you did. I tried to do Poland this year. It didn't work. The point is that each of us, we get around and we talk to different communities all over the place. And I got to say that Europe is a very different kind of culture than the United States as far as testing goes.
There seems to be a spirit of inquiry that I bump in. Now, part of it's selection bias, right? People come to us and ask us to do these classes. But what I love about those places is that we're finding testers who are truly engaged in what they do. And the coolest thing about that is a lot of that engagement is fueled by ideas that are coming from outside of testing.
I was actually going to talk about the opposite of that.
Really? What?
What I find in Europe is that it's like a feudal society of testers. And there are a few freedom fighters like the Jedi that were scattered by the Empire.
Those are the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about the Jedi.
Yeah.
So you're going to Hoth to the whatever that base was, and you're saying, oh look, it's very nice. Look at all these wonderful freedom fighters here. But meanwhile, they're surrounded by the Empire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on in Europe where people feel they cannot get work. They can't get work unless they bow down to the TMAP gods. The Netherlands is like this. I was told that this is true, and yet there are a handful of people. It's like the resistance, that are meeting in secret, and they're trying to throw off the yoke of the TMAPers.
So how do we do that? How do we do that really well?
Well,
how does
Charlton Heston in the Omega Man showed us how. You make a
lot of
barricade,
movies we
and you
have to
put
watch.
bright lights, and then you have machine guns, and then the zombies come, and then they go rawr. But we can't do that.
I don't think
because
that,
Charlton Heston is dead.
Among other things.
So what we do is one of our methods is peer conferences, and I want to recommend this to you. Peer conferences are immensely powerful. I just did a peer conference in Romania.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one in New Zealand later this year. The idea of a peer conference is to get a small group of people in a facilitated environment, and you share experiences. And you might think, oh, so what? We share experiences. What's the big deal?
Sounds very Californian.
What it does is it builds community. We need a community of people who revere skill, who have role models of people who are skilled. And how do you know someone's skilled? Because they demonstrate their skill on demand. They can show you what they can do. And I think the Agile community, I have my problems with the Agile community. One thing I really like about the Agile community is they're really into craftsmanship. They're really into skill.
Yeah, that's.
And so we're kind of taking some methods from the Agile community to the skilled testing community.
The peer conference idea to me is really wonderful because it's about telling actual stories of people who are doing testing work on the ground.
Instead of best practice stuff.
Plus,
because there's no best practices. Don't let anybody tell. If there's actually some sessions here called best practices for whatever, it's all nonsense. There are no best practices.
No best practice. There might be good practices in context.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
If I have a practice that's my favorite practice, I like to say, here's my favorite practice. I don't need to say, here's what everyone's favorite practice should be. And that's what you're saying when you say best practice. So don't say that. It makes you look stupid.
Well, the other thing that's wonderful about the peer conference work is that everybody who tells a story puts themselves up to be challenged on that story and to be probed for details about, well, why didn't that work for me? I tried that and that didn't work for me. How come it worked for you? You're claiming that it works for you. Can you show me or tell me how?
That's the magic of a peer conference. Yeah. You stand up. You give your message to your peers. Your peers question you, and in the way that we do peer conferences, you can't sit down until every question is asked. It doesn't matter. It's gone as long as 3 hours, 4 hours of questioning.
It takes a whole day the first time.
And you can't fail to respect someone who stands and faces you and answers your questions for 4 hours and doesn't bolt. And that's how it creates community. And so we've got a little community of people who trust each other, who believe in each other, who've demonstrated to each other their excellence in testing, or if not, their road to excellence, how they're working toward excellence in testing. And this in Romania, in Estonia, in Sweden. Sweden's gotten so big with this that now they're doing their own big conference. They're doing a big public conference now called the Let's Test.
So that to a lot of people that would sound kind of scary. Standing in front of a group of 19 or 20 people.
Is it scary?
Well,
what if I was in the audience and I was saying like, "What do you think? How dare you say that, sir?"
Well, I think a lot of people would find that intimidating, don't you think?
Yes, a lot of people do.
So what do we do about it?
Well, there's a facilitator. First of all, that's what you need to understand. There's a facilitator that keeps things from going a little too far. But the other thing is that there's a community moderation. And there's also commitment.
There's a commitment to respecting the person without necessarily agreeing with the idea.
Sometimes I don't respect people.
Well, that happens too. But it's designed to be a safe environment. It's designed to be an
It is designed to be a relatively safe in a way, but it's not safe for people who are faking it. You want to get up and try to talk about the best practices you don't really understand, you have no experience in, you are going to lose your reputation. You're going over the cliff, and you deserve to. That's the thing, is creating an unsafe environment for frauds. I want to have an unsafe environment for frauds, please, in this industry. Can we do that? I think there's some people that want positivity in everything. Like, let's just think positive and not say bad things about people. It's kind of like, let's avert our eyes from the spider in the corner, and maybe it won't become a spider colony if we just give it an indication by not paying attention to it that it's not welcome here.
Well,
that doesn't work. Now you have a whole colony of spiders.
It's like bugs in software. You know what? This does look like a problem.
Imagine that. Let's not report bugs because that's thinking negatively. Let's just not acknowledge them, and maybe they'll go away by themselves. Developers will get the hint.
So the peer conferences were set up for ideas to be challenged in a way that is respectful. In general, it's respectful of non-frosters.
It is.
And where people bring their ideas, and the ideas are attacked without ideally...
Well, you know what? I'm going to bring it around full circle.
Yes?
Keith Klein's organization,
yeah,
they do internal peer conferences.
Tell me about that.
You know who told them to do that? Me.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how do they do it?
They get people from the different parts of the organization, and they get them together periodically, and they share experiences about how they're solving various problems at work. And so this community grows and gets stronger, and also you're creating lines of support. So that if I need help, I know to go to this guy. I know he's done this before. So instead of everyone just working in their cubicle, you've got this support network out there. And then here's another cool thing. It becomes this vortex ratcheting up to excellence because other people see that and they want to be part of it. So it sucks in the smart, ambitious ones who notice that these people are able to do better work and getting rewarded for that.
One of the things I loved about his talk was when he said, what we want to do is we want to make it hard to get into this company.
Hard to get in.
We set a high bar, and he says that attracts people who want to be.
You know who else does that? Biker gangs. Blood in, blood out. I think that wasn't that one of Keith Klain's principles. I know there was 80-20 and blood in, blood out was underneath that. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe that's not a metaphor that's going to fly that well to biker gangs. How about pilots?
Also, Keith suggests don't tattoo your head.
Did he? I missed that. I think I was tweeting something at the time.
So what did you say? What are you asking?
Pilots is a hard profession to get into. Piloting.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
My older brother's an airline pilot. He is proud to say that 85% of the people who went to airline pilot school with him flunked. We should be happy about that. So sometimes I look at this ISTQB stuff and they're like, we have a 95% pass rate on our tests. Oh, really? So you're saying anybody can get this? So you're saying the fact that I get it signifies nothing?
I remember
other than I can breathe, I can fog a mirror.
I remember one time I was at a conference.
But then the problem with fogging a mirror is you have to look in yourself, at yourself in that mirror after that. Just think of that.
But
you're right. That's a good point. So there's no problem.
So I remember one time I was at a conference and somebody said, I felt that there's a bunch of people who didn't pass, and I felt really bad about that.
Felt really bad about that?
Yeah. So I said, did you ever feel bad about anybody who did pass? And that was the reaction that she gave to that. Yeah, I felt kind of bad about some of the people who passed. Yeah. So it seems to me that creating this culture of excellence was the thing that was most energizing about Keith's talk. It was another thing he said was, you kind of feel kind of squeamish about this, I suppose, but they take the bottom 10% of the people every year and they ask them to move on. The GE did that kind of thing. But I also remember
10%.
Yeah,
sounds like a metrics program.
Yeah. So one of the things that it reminded me of, though, was the research paper that came out on brainstorming. There's a paper that came out on brainstorming that said maybe brainstorming in the way that we've traditionally talked about it, no criticism, no critique, doesn't work as well as brainstorms where there is some criticism, where there is some feedback, where people do sharpen an idea by cutting at it a bit, shaping it. I mean, you don't do sculpture by keeping the whole stone intact. Yeah, it's a paper that came out.
The future's looking bright for me then.
Well, you got to be careful not to put the chisel all the way through the sculpture, but just to shape it. So we only got a minute or two left. Anything you want to say in particular? Anything you got some energy for?
I want to say that sometimes you and I have a reputation, don't we, as being, negative Nancy's?
Hard to handle. Controversial.
We are. And I hope you've seen in this video that reputation is completely wrong. That in fact, we're respectful people who feel in our hearts a sense of glowing green energy that flows out of us to all peoples of the world.
Who want to do great testing.
As long as they want to do great testing. Because if they want to do bad testing, we hope they dry up and die.
Oh.
Well, okay, not that. Eventually, of a natural death. A natural death. I'm in bed, surrounded by family.
That's good. That's good.
So I hope that softens it a little bit.
How about another profession?
I hope soon that will happen.
How about another profession?
They can go to another profession.
That's fine.
They can become marketers. They can sell rice-a-roni. There's so many different things to do. There are many opportunities in the food services industry, I hear. McDonald's is hiring.
There you go. All right.
But if you want to be a great tester, we're on your side. Please let us help you do that.
Okay.
Stay tuned for Rude Tennyson.
Yeah.
His name is Rude.
Well, Rude.
Oh, root. I'm sorry.
It's a Dutch thing. I'm learning to speak Dutch.
Okay, all right.
So, goedemorgen, and Ruud will be here fairly soon.
All right. As they say in Sweden, tack.